Nowadays, it seems as though the world is coming to an end every 3 to 4 months at the movies. This is mostly thanks to the preponderance of superheroes at the multiplex, where every villain has a plan to destroy our planet, if not every planet. But for a while there, the world coming to an end was a slightly more novel idea. It was usually left up to Bond villains to threaten humanity's very existence. In the 90s, however, the entertainment value of witnessing our own extermination started to pick up steam at the box office, and the more memorable ones had civilization looking down the barrel of annihilation. You can probably credit Roland Emmerich for this. In 1996, his Independence Day reignited our passion for seeing large-scale alien invasion-style mayhem inflicted upon the populace. If you weren't around back then or are too young to really remember it, it's difficult to overstate just how impressive those early ID4 trailers were and how stoked for the movie most of us were. A couple of years later, Michael Bay would smash apart a few cities with the threat of much, much worse to come in Armageddon, where an asteroid the size of Texas is the antagonist, which is considerably scarier than the comet-sized of Mount Everest that hurled toward the planet in Deep Impact, released just 2 months prior. Michael Bay knows how to blow stuff up real good, and Armageddon gave him his first real chance to lay waste to some of our favorite cities, not counting the time Sean Connery and Nick Cage tore up much of San Francisco. While neither movie is ever going to sit atop any greatest films of all time lists, they're surely two of the most significant disaster movies ever released. That's why we're putting these two Earth crashers in the ring to see which one is the ultimate in the genre. It's Independence Day versus Armageddon in this edition of Face Off.
Face Off. Disclaimer. No actual science was used to determine the outcome of Face Off. Your results may vary. Please do not consume Face Off if you are allergic to conjecture, opinion, or general nonsense.
Round 1. Premise.
Both films have compelling central ideas that help make them irresistible to the popcorn movie fan. In Independence Day, Earth finds out the hard way it's not alone in the universe when several very imposing spaceships arrive in our zip code and position themselves above notable landmarks throughout the world. Maybe they come in peace and are here to offer us some life-changing advice on how best— No, they're here to wreck the place. Major cities are blown to bits, millions are dead, and now the US military and a ragtag group of quirky civilians are the only hope of stopping the onslaught before it gets worse. Armageddon sees the human race facing a danger of a different kind, a massive asteroid that, if not stopped, will plow into the planet and kill everybody almost instantly. As a sneak preview, a few meteor showers smack into the globe, blowing major cities to bits and causing the deaths of millions. You know the drill. Speaking of drills, it's up to a ragtag group of oil drillers to go into space, along with some astronauts, bore a hole into the menacing rock, and detonate a nuclear bomb inside it, thus stopping the onslaught before it gets worse. Both movies have great premises with lots of intense chaos to satisfy the darker sides of our imaginations, while also offering plenty of feel-good, overly sentimental moments to make us feel better about enjoying the wholesale destruction. Still, before Independence Day, we weren't quite so cynical about premises such as this one. Now aliens blowing up the Earth can be seen just about anywhere. And while Armageddon earns points for sending blue-collar dudes up to space to take out an asteroid, you can't help recognizing that Deep Impact had an incredibly similar premise and hit the marketplace first, if only by a couple of months. Because of that, we're giving ID4 the win. Verdict: ID4.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth.
Round 2. Threats to the planet.
Now that we've gotten the basic premises out of the way, let's look at which scenario is the more frightening one for our Mother Earth. Independence Day is scary because our threat is sentient. These guys have come here with the specific goal of obliterating us and taking our natural resources, something they've apparently done to other unfortunate planets. While they announced their unfriendly intentions early on, they stopped short of outright destroying us, instead unwisely giving our human heroes just enough time to figure out how to defeat them. Yeah, that part's kinda dumb. In Armageddon, there's no hope of negotiating or fighting the otherworldly enemy. It's just a small planet on a collision course with us, and once it hits, we will be wiped out permanently. The only hope is to blow it up from the inside. No amount of missiles or machine guns can make us triumphant against it. It's because of the asteroid's virtually unstoppable nature that Armageddon wins this round. Verdict: Armageddon.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth. Round 3, protagonists.
As is standard procedure in the disaster genre, both movies have a chock full of colorful characters who must band together to save the day or at least survive to see another one. Independence Day has a veritable smorgasbord of humans from different walks of life who eventually come together in a show of true unity. There's Captain Steve Hiller, a cocky fighter pilot, and his exotic dancing girlfriend Jasmine. There's the President Thomas Whitmore, a former fighter pilot himself, which will come in handy. David Levinson, the requisite nerd who knows everything, even how to decipher the aliens' none too advanced codes. David's nosy, opinionated dad is also along for the ride. There's drunken crackpot Russell, who claims to have been abducted by aliens and who just might be the key to wiping out the baddies from above for good. A very quirky scientist who spent a little too much time at Area 51 and various uptight military types and office drones. This would more or less become the template for every Roland Emmerich movie going forward. The heroic group in Armageddon is made up of an even zanier array of eccentrics. Yes, there's the sturdy everyman Harry Stamper, a protective father and best damn driller on the planet, but underneath them are a bunch of misfits that you probably wouldn't leave alone with your kid, let alone trust to save the world. Among them, the brash young man who's dating Harry's daughter, a young man Harry basically tries to murder in the first act. Harry's daughter Grace is the only female of consequence in the film and whose most memorable moment involves having animal crackers prance along her tummy. Guys like Rockhound and Bear are wild enough, but wait till you meet Lev, the bonkers Russian cosmonaut they encounter aboard the space station Mir. Just about every other character in this movie is meant to be comic relief with decidedly middling results. There are several by-the-book bureaucrats around to lend some seriousness to the proceedings, like NASA director Dan Truman, the voice of reason on the ground, and even most of the scientists in the movie are bumbling, fumbling boobs. Both movies go to lengths to make their ensembles colorful and eclectic, with stoic figures standing right alongside oddballs fighting the good fight together. That said, none of these characters will ever be confused as being among the movie's strongest points. Therefore, this round is a draw. Verdict: draw.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth. Round 4, the casts.
Now that we've looked at the characters, let's see who's been assembled to play them. Independence Day can boast that it gave Will Smith one of his first true movie star roles, setting him up for a couple of decades worth of success, and for all intents and purposes, he's quite commanding in the role. Jeff Goldblum was hired to do his best Jeff Goldblum impersonation, and you know nobody does it better than Jeff Goldblum. He's always entertaining. Judd Hirsch goes full grumpy grandpa as Goldblum's dad, and if that kind of humor works for you, well, you've got no complaints here. Fully leaning into the crazy is Randy Quaid as the loony farmer who helps save the day, and he does this job well. Another standout is Brent Spiner, of course, best known for displaying no emotions at all in his most famous role, who happily goes over the top as the madcap scientist at Area 51. Mary McDonnell and Margaret Collin do sturdy work in what are fairly thankless roles, but at least Vivica A. Fox brings some life to her protective mother character. Finally, Bill Pullman is a believably bland president who rises to the occasion when the time calls for it, and he gives one of the 90s most memorable movie speeches with class. And Harvey Fierstein is also in it. Michael Bay has always had a knack for casting. You've got to give him that, and Armageddon is populated by an impressive list of movie stars, indie darlings, and character actors. Bruce Willis is, of course, the lead, and he plays the part of gruff everyman well, as to be expected, but it's the supporting cast that really shines. Billy Bob Thornton was less than 2 years removed from being introduced to the world via his Oscar-winning Sling Blade, and does what he can with a character whose main job is to provide helpful exposition. Liv Tyler doesn't have the most exciting role. She's there to be attractive and look worried, but you can agree that the camera absolutely loves her. Ben Affleck wasn't quite a movie star just yet, but well on his way when Bay cast him in the role of miniature hotshot AJ, and one has to admit B. Fleck was indeed a lovable scamp back in those those days, Steve Buscemi is well cast, I suppose, as a brilliant geologist who's also a pervert. And his Fargo co-star Peter Stormare stands out as a cosmonaut who's been in space far too long. Owen Wilson was far from a household name, but he does his shtick to good effect here. Several other reliable screen vets turn up like Will Patton, Keith David, Michael Clark Duncan, and Jason Isaacs. Hell, Bay even cast Udo Kier as a creepy shrink in his multi-million-dollar asteroid movie, which certainly deserves a measure of respect. While both movies are well cast and all of the actors are game for looking serious in fairly ridiculous circumstances, it's hard to disagree that Armageddon packs the more impressive list of names overall. Verdict: Armageddon.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth. Round 5, action and violence.
Alright, both movies have solid credentials on the dramatic front, but let's be real. The true stars of the show are the various sequences involving explosions, impossible flying objects, and thousands of innocent lives lost. It's why we go to the movies. It can be said that Independence Day contains one of the more infamous sequences of destruction in movie history, which is of course when New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles are vaporized, leading to many fireballs and tumbling vehicles. The VFX of the buildings exploding might be slightly dated now, but holy hell, were they cool in '96. But the movie's not simply limited to landmarks flying apart. There are many UFOs in this thing, as well as the aerial battles between them and the military are enjoyably crafted. Emmerich, for all his faults, knows how to stage an action scene, Godzilla notwithstanding, and '94 definitely moves when it's depicting a firefight. The film won the Oscar for Best Visual Effects, which was well deserved. Armageddon isn't quite as action-heavy as Independence Day, which might sound strange until you realize that there are really long stretches in the movie where nothing or no one is being blown up. That said, when things explode, they do so with attitude, as depicted in the early scene where some of New York City gets pelted with meteorites, or when Shanghai and Paris get a dose of the same medicine. Perhaps more striking is the sequence when the two spaceships sent to blow up the asteroid endure a rocky refueling at the Mir space station, then get tossed into the fire when trying to land on the flying rock. Things don't go well for our crew, but it's a pretty exciting chunk of movie. There's also a lot of drilling. Those scenes are not especially exciting, though they are occasionally livened up with some hilarious dialogue like,
"Look, get that bomb out of there! We got a hold of me!" "Harry, you gotta give me that hoe!"
"Yeah, we're children." The bottom line is, because watching aliens destroy the Empire State Building and fighter jets attack UFOs is more exciting than seeing a giant drill bore into a meteor, we're giving the edge to ID4 here. Verdict: ID4.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth. Round 6, the finale.
Every good action epic needs a banger of a conclusion, and since both ID4 and Armageddon are about 2.5 hours long, sending us out with a real bang is crucial. Roland Emmerich was very much inspired by Return of the Jedi in the making of Independence Day, and it shows as he stages an epic dogfight between the forces of good and evil in the air, while simultaneously showing a few of our heroes infiltrate and destroy this movie's version of the Death Star. Throw the president in a fighter jet, along with crazy Randy Quaid who sacrifices himself for humanity, and you've got yourself a real crowd pleaser. Sure, countless lives have been lost, and the world is an ashy husk of its former self, but the finale is upbeat and optimistic. Always send them out smiling. Armageddon uses a formulaic ticking time bomb scenario in order to hopefully keep us on the edge of our seats while we wait and see if those roughnecks really can save the world. Okay, there's not much suspense there because of course they will, but when it becomes clear someone is going to have to lose their life in the process, Armageddon goes for the heartstrings. Though AJ is prepared to sacrifice himself for the greater good, wouldn't you know that Harry, the man who earlier in the film literally fired a shotgun multiple times in his direction, decides to take on the job himself. It turns out these two men love each other, and they're not afraid to say it. Harry is also not afraid to spend a few minutes saying goodbye to his little girl while the asteroid that he was sent to destroy is so very close to pulverizing Earth. What's a couple more minutes, right? That's the best damn driller in the galaxy right there. With all due respect to the folks who actually shed a little tear toward the end of Armageddon, the finale of Independence Day is just way more fun to behold. Verdict, ID4.
I'd be damn proud to have you marry Grace.
Welcome to Earth. Final verdict, Independence Day.
When it comes to basking in the destruction of Earth, there are few who can take on Roland Emmerich. It's his mission in life to show us just how many different ways the planet can be epically screwed over. Armageddon has its pleasures, no doubt, but Independence Day truly rises to the occasion and still has a place in the top tier of disaster movies. Good night, all. And Harry, I love you.